Welcome to CrossFit Alaya Unleashed podcast, where we discuss health and fitness, mindset and business with your host, Coach Lloyd. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Alaya Unleashed, where we post updates and teasers on our upcoming guests and podcasts. Here we go, episode 24 of the Alaya Unleashed podcast. And today I've got with me a friend of mine. What literally gets me about this woman is I feel like you've got so much going on. You do so much stuff, but you just seem so chill doing it all. So that's why I've got you on, just to pick your brain on how you do things. And I feel like a lot of people can take something away from all the things that you do and manage to spin all these plates at once. So we do indeed have Charlotte on. She's literally a wife, a mother of 7 children, believe it or not. She's an entrepreneur, very successful at what she does, which we'll go on to more in the podcast. She's into fitness, sailing, and a lot more other things as well, which we'll go on. So there's a lot going on. We're just going to start off with you introducing yourself, anything that I might have missed, and then we'll just rewind it back to you maybe coming over to Dubai, a little bit about your childhood maybe, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, thanks, Lloyd. Thanks for inviting me on. That's
it's a pleasure.
A lot to digest
and
think about what I need to say to introduce myself. But thanks for provoking me to think about some of the things I don't usually think about, which is kind of what drives me and what helps me achieve everything that I do in a stress-free and calm way. So I've been in Dubai almost 15 years now. Mm-hmm. Came here to be with my husband Paolo before I was living in India. I've actually lived in 9 countries around the world, but when I came to Dubai I had no intention to stay here. Actually, I thought it was just going to be a 3-year journey. But
isn't that like everyone?
Yeah, made my life here, and really it is my home, and I can't actually imagine living anywhere else now. So I am an entrepreneur since I've been here. So I came here as a good corporate girl, having worked in corporate multinationals around the world for 20 years. And 7 years ago, I got the opportunity to be my own boss, which has been possibly one of the most rewarding decisions that I've ever made. Mm-hmm. It wasn't intentional. It sort of happened by accident. Wow.
So Kids Inc. is the company that Charlotte owns, and just give people a little sentence of what you do and what it is that Kids Inc. is so good at.
Yeah, okay, so we are design company, completely integrated in the world of education. So we offer everything from design consultancy to schools, even considering what type of school they should open, what should be the branding, through to actually designing the building, if it's a new build, or renovating a building, an old building that maybe they're taking over, through to actually doing the interior design and fit out. And actually we're a fully fledged furniture manufacturing company, also making furniture for schools. We started 7 years ago. Actually, I bought a license actually. So, I mean, maybe I could just talk a little bit how I got into this, which will help to understand the story behind the company. So 7 years ago, I had 3 of my smallest children in a small nursery called Children's Oasis Nursery. At the time, I was general manager of Mars, and I was spending a lot of my time commuting around the world between the US, where we had to go on a regular basis, or my boss was actually based in Singapore at that time, so I was traveling there a lot, and various other places around the world. And I had these 3 small children in this nursery. They were all under 3 years old at the time, so actually they're Irish triplets. Wow. 3 children born in 2 years, but none of them are twins.
Okay.
So you need to work that one out, but it's actually a thing. So they're in this nursery, and one day I got a message to say this nursery was closing. And actually it was the first British nursery to open in Dubai many years ago. It was owned by a very talented and proud German lady who didn't want to sell this nursery as she was retiring to anyone, because she believed that she ran the best nursery and no one else could possibly continue the legacy she wanted to leave. In fact, she'd created. So she decided to relocate to the US with her daughter and actually close the nursery. When I got the email that the nursery is closing in 8 weeks, at the beginning of the summer, actually, it was the last term of the summer going into June, I had a massive meltdown. It does, what am I going to do with my 3 kids? Because I'm traveling, working, how am I going to find somewhere to put my children over the summer months, and then indeed, where they continue from September. So I remember I was in Kuwait at the time when I got this message. Paolo, my husband, was in Turkey, and I rang him and I said, let's buy this nursery. And he's like, what do you mean? So I said, well, it can't be wrong. It's full, it's got 150 children, it's waitlisted. So, we had to put our children on the wait list to get them in. It was kind of very much in high demand in those days, and still is. And I said, we shouldn't let it close down. We should keep it open for our kids. So anyway, through a lot of discussion with the owner at the time, and managed to convince her to let me make an offer to buy it. So I had no idea of the financials, did a quick sort of calculation and figured out what we could afford without it being any kind of risk on the family, and made an offer to buy the nursery, and she accepted it.
Wow.
So at the time, I had absolutely no intention to resign from Mars or leave Mars. I'd been working in the corporate world for 20 years and, didn't even think about, leaving. But I thought I had a very competent manager, Catriona at the time, and, let's buy this nursery and we'd just keep it going, as an investment on the side, and my children could continue there. And anyway, education is really a noble cause, and I've always had a passion for education and schools, and I've got lots of ideas how to improve them. So anyway, we took over the nursery, kept it going, and during the purchase of the license, I was at the court, so the Dubai court, doing all the paperwork with Petra, and found out that she also had this company called Kids Inc. So back in the day, it was like Kids Incorporated, and it was a trading company for German-made furniture and early years resources, like typical wooden furniture and wooden toys for small children. And she'd closed this company, actually. So all that was left was a license, a hard drive, and an accountant, Sham, who's still with me today, actually.
Okay, well.
And I said, okay, she told me a bit about the company. They used to import and sell German-made school furniture, high quality, working with lots of schools. Kind of in their golden days, they had 25 people, and she'd just closed the company. So I just had the impulse to say, okay, would you sell that license to me? I had absolutely no idea what I was going to do with it, but actually inside myself, I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I'm an ideas girl, and that's kind of one of the things that's always driven me to, I think, my success working in corporate multinationals, think like an entrepreneur and an innovator. Anyway, she sold me this license, and I resigned from Mars. And after I worked my notice 6 months later, I was sort of scratching my head, what am I going to do? Yeah. That was 7 years ago. And that was when we kind of really restarted Kids Inc. So Kids Inc. started 7 years ago with 1 employee and a hard drive of customers that Petra used to sell to. So went through a whole kind of interrogation of, what they were doing, and identified an opportunity to really bring design thinking to schools in the Middle East. So actually the Middle East is the second largest private school market in the world, behind China, and it's got the highest concentration of schools in the world, meaning in close proximity to each other. Yet when I was visiting all of these schools to get an idea of what Kids Inc. used to do, and also of course having so many children, I've visited so many schools for my own personal reasons, schools are so boring. Classrooms still look like they did in the industrial era of the UK. And, things were done in such bad taste and bad quality, and, the concept of design focused around the end user, clearly hadn't been, explored and wasn't valued. So I had the idea to bring the lens of design to furniture, and gradually got into, realising that all furniture manufacturers for school were not moving forward. So standard furniture was not fit for purpose in terms of what schools needed, flexible, learning environments. So eventually got into the manufacture of furniture. And then through manufacturing furniture with a design lens, our clients brought us into designing schools, and, kind of the journey went from there. So we've got around 250 people right now, our own fully fledged manufacturing facility in DIC, purpose-built facility. And in the office, we have around 120 engineers, architects, innovators, teachers, working together to put an integrated design solution behind designing and building new schools.
It's crazy.
And we do that around, we've got an office in Saudi Arabia, where actually my two sons, now they work in the family business and they run that office. And then we've got a small office in Spain we opened 1 year ago, where we have two architects leading, the development of our services and our offering into Europe.
It's such a nice story because, again, I didn't even know that. Like, for those that don't know, I usually meet my guest before the podcast, sort of get like an outline of what we're going to speak about, and we've just totally got off because, again, we just didn't.
Yeah, I know.
We didn't even chat about that on the first time. But again, that's something that I've learned, and it's something that I see going into Kids Inc. as well, is obviously the office, on how different it looks to others.
Yeah.
Because thankfully, Charlotte was actually the first person that sort of works with me doing my corporate health and wellness stuff. So she gave me, the opportunity to actually, I didn't really need to sell my idea. As soon as I told you what it was that I wanted to do, you was like, okay, you're in. So I didn't really have to sell it much to Charlotte because she knows exactly how important it is for people and companies to have in. So, but I've been in other businesses since, and your office compared to others is just, it's brighter, like the feel I get as soon as you walk into Kids Inc. is a lot different to most of the other offices that I've walked into, whereas like some people wouldn't have windows. It'd be, brown colours and dark colours, and it just makes you depressed and it's miserable. Whereas Kids Inc. now, you've got your kitchen in there where people can cook, it's bright, and it's just like everyone's energy is so high. And I think that comes from you as well. Yeah,
it's the culture. I really believe in creating a place where people can do their best at work. And, doing your best at work means that, first of all, the company you work for values you by giving you the tools and equipment, which can be the office, the space, to inspire you, to relax you, to help promote your well-being, which is why when we met and you came with the idea of like doing a wellness program, because I see like, actually, a lot of the people that work for us, they just haven't had the opportunity to have the education around how they can improve their lives, whether it be, from just basic movement, flexibility, food, nutrition, and, I've always been privileged to be part of a family who have, taken that seriously and understood the value of being healthy, and fit and mobile. But for sure, not everyone in our office has had the same opportunity. So, they're all youngsters as well. So I really believe in kind of the concept of youth and finding really smart people with loads of potential. And what young people don't often realise is that if you don't establish good habits, even around mobility, when you're young, actually becomes a massive problem when you're older. So we have a lot of jobs that require a lot of hours behind a desk. Architects have to sit, they have to be out there, but they also have to sit and think and concentrate. And so, providing them with great tools, which is, natural light, good acoustics in an office, the right chair, the right tools and equipment, but also the right education around how they can physically keep well whilst they perform their work. And, one of the great stories about our company is probably 80% of people have brought their friends and family, which I mentioned to you earlier. So actually, we've got over 250 people, 22% of our employees are related. they're either married or they're brothers and sisters or they're cousins. And even we've got father and son. So we've got two father and son combos, one in our installation team, Roger, amazing guy, and he brought his son to do his apprenticeship in our company, and now he works with us. And then Luigi, who runs our manufacturing facility, his son, he's a biochemist, but actually now he designs furniture in our factory. They work together. So, apart from the people that are related, like we started by bringing some people in various roles, and then when we grew, do you know anyone who's an architect, an engineer? And for me, that's a really great sign of how thriving our culture is, that actually people want to bring their friends and family to work in the company. And like you noticed, which makes me really happy, is it's really important for us to make people feel warm and welcome and relaxed, so actually they can give their best at work and enjoy it. I believe everyone comes to work to do their best. No one comes to work to do a bad job. That's true. And it's our job to help them, get the best out of themselves and succeed.
Yeah.
So
let's look at Kids Inc. more, because you've made it sound like this. Well, it is right now. It's this amazing company that's doing great things, and there's people that are related in there, and everything seems to be going swimmingly well. Yeah. There must have been times where you might have questioned yourself, growing Kids Inc. from what you found it. There's been some sort of setbacks that you've had. Like, is there anything that sticks out in particular, or like tell me how you deal with certain things that might put you off course a little bit with regards to business?
Yeah. Well, we've had loads of setbacks, and Paolo and I often, Paolo's my husband, we often laugh like some of the decisions that we made, but then we went back on. We thought, oh my God, what do we have in our head when we decided that? Looking back, but there's a few things I would say that have, despite setbacks, despite mistakes, it's never been stressful for us, because we've always grown in a way that we've managed that. So we're very risky people. We take lots of risk, and we've grown the company within the context of taking big, bold steps. However, we've never borrowed any money from anybody or the bank. And that has enabled us to have peace of mind behind the decisions we've taken. And I've always believed this all my life. Like, if you've got to, when you make a bold step or you do some things, what's the worst thing that can happen?
Yeah.
And I think if you can create a context for looking at, okay, let me try this. If it doesn't work out, the worst case is, and that's how we've managed to build the business and make mistakes, because we've managed the risk in the context of a framework that we're comfortable with. So, the risk isn't going to risk our family and make us bankrupt. Those kind of choices helps you deal with setbacks, in a more digestible and relaxed way. Yeah. So, there's been many. I mean, okay, there's too many. We make too many mistakes to even think about one. But even where we've made mistakes with customers. So actually, growing our company, we never talk about money in the company. We just talk about delighting our customers. And what we believe is, if we focus on the customers and the long term, actually that is what will eventually make us a successful and,
for sure,
growing company. So we've made some decisions where, mistakes that have led to maybe a poor or sloppy execution of a project in a school, or mistakes in pricing, or, and we deal with it in a way that can be quite bold. So, we've given free science labs to schools, free libraries, and we have sat back and looked at, oh, shit, we made a mistake there. How are we going to make it right? We don't focus on the short-term financial. We focus on, okay, if we do the right thing to fix the mistake, in the long term, it'll work out in the best way. I never really get stressed, actually. And I think that if we're not making mistakes and bad decisions, we're not moving forward and growing.
I agree.
You can't change the decision, what you can, or the past or the mistake or the situation, what you've got to do is interrogate it for what's the learning and act on that.
Have you always been like that? Because, I mean, the situations where I can get stressed, and I try not to get stressed, because stress for me literally just impacts me more than anything else. I know when I'm stressed, it'll affect my sleep, affect my mood. It doesn't happen often, but when it happens, I know. Like, you've got to be a pretty positive person to have that sort of mindset and mentality not to get stressed, because other people would just look at a certain situation, think negative. Well, what's the worst that can happen? Some people can get in like a rabbit hole of like, this is the worst that can happen, this is this. But I guess you have to have some sort of positive mindset and some sort of faith that, you know, it's not that bad looking back on it.
Yeah. Yeah,
so like, you must be mentally strong to deal with this, because most people would get stressed.
I've always been like that. I mean, you know, one of my heroes is Margaret Thatcher.
Here we go.
And, you know, she was there in power when I was just a small child. And, you know, she actually made many transformations that are part of why the UK has been a successful country over the last 40, 50 years. She deregulated the financial markets. She ended the Cold War. She addressed a lot of the union problems that the country had. She completely transformed the taxation system. You know, and a lot of those decisions made her very unpopular. And they carried massive risk in terms of her potential to maybe continue in her role with the support of a party or the people. But she did those things, like really buying into the fact that she believed in them, and, you know, obviously built with the rationale and the economic arguments or whatever. She didn't care what the others thought about her or what was going to happen. She cared about what was the right thing to do. You know, and in the end, the worst case she happened to her in the end. She lost the confidence of her party and they threw her out. But actually, before that point, she made a difference on topics that probably no one else would have had the confidence to do, because they cared too much about losing the position. You know, and that's one of the things I think today, if you think about politics, politicians care more about popularity and just being in power. And if you look at the whole farcical situation behind, you know, US elections, they spend more time focusing on being elected than actually making a difference to the problems and making uncomfortable decisions. You know, but in the end, what's the word? Like, Maggie Thatcher wasn't going to be you know, murdered or, you know, risk her family or her life. Actually, she just focused on going behind what she believed. You know, in the worst case, she was going to be fired. You know, and having the confidence. So she gave me a lot of insight. You know, and I saw, you know, there's a famous scene. I don't even know if it was true, actually. You know, The Crown. Okay, she's Netflix. She's there with Queen Elizabeth and they're talking, and Queen Elizabeth says, you know, it's one should not make enemies, or whatever she said. And Maggie says something along the lines of, you know, but if you don't have foes, you know, you're not really going behind your convictions. And actually, you know, it's natural to make enemies if you have strong beliefs and you go behind what is right or what you believe is right. So, yeah, she's always inspired me with that kind of grit and determination. And I've always had, like, even when I, you know, went to live abroad, so from my family and village and all of my friends, you know, I was pretty much the only person to leave Yorkshire, leave Walkington. And, you know, for everyone around me, it's like, oh my gosh, you're going to live in France or India or the Middle East, you know. And I always, that's great. And look at all the opportunity that comes from that. Yeah, but what if you don't like it, doesn't work out? Well, I mean, I can always come back. You know, that's the worst case. You know, so, I'm pragmatic on this. I've always been like that. You
take it from your parents or not?
I think so. I think, definitely. I think, like, from a different angle. So my mum and dad have, you know, they've always been hard workers. And they've always inspired me through their determination to have a happy, serene family life, you know, that through their hard work and determination. So I think, yeah, knowing that and having seen that, you know, if anything ever goes wrong, or, you know, if you just put the hard work in, you know, usually solves the problem anyway.
Yeah.
You know, and, you know, clearly I'm not talking about like extreme situations. I've been lucky to never have something that is so significant to impact my life that's really thrown me. I think I was trying to think about this actually. You asked me, you know, have you ever had a setback that's been huge? The biggest thing that ever threw me in my whole life was when I was 30, my dad was hit by a car on purpose, actually. So he was at work, so he had his own business, he was at work late at night, he was a workaholic, always, you know, loved his office, loved the yard, he was in logistics and storage. And one night he was there, it was dark in the winter, but it was in the spring, but it was like early spring, and a car went, like a van actually, came onto the yard, and we only know this because we saw it on a camera actually afterwards, but it came on the yard. My dad was in the office, he saw it go round the back and then didn't come out for a while. So he was like, okay, let me go and see who these people are, what they want. And actually they were thieves and trying to steal some stuff. Dad interrupted them, they got in the car and drove at him, and he hit the front of the car, was knocked on the floor, and had an internal brain bleed actually. And one of his guys who was working in the service area actually was also working late. Probably if he hadn't been working late, Dad wouldn't be alive today. But he noticed the lights on in Dad's office. Dad wasn't there, went to look for him, found him on the floor, called the ambulance.
Wow.
It was near my birthday actually, so I happened to be in Yorkshire. I was living in London at the time, but I happened to be in Yorkshire. And Mum and I went to the hospital, we met the ambulance, and actually they told us after a few hours, like, if there's anyone you need to call them, because, you know, Keith's not going to survive the night. Anyway, Dad's here today, went back to work, and, you know, he's 82 now, and he did survive. And actually it was really funny at the time, you know, we could have focused on, you know, sort of the situation and the travesty of the situation, but we focused on the positives of, you know, Dad being recovering. So actually I don't know if the guy was ever found or charged, and we didn't even really focus on that, because in reality, yes, okay, you can talk about getting justice and whatever, but actually what was important to us to, you know, help Dad in his recovery and heal. So we put all of our efforts on Dad, and he was in the hospital for a very long time. He didn't know who we were. You know, he couldn't do anything for himself. Eventually they had to move it when he was medically stable. They moved him into like a rehab centre. And he was in a rehab centre in a ward with like really severely brain injured people. And, you know, they were trying to rehab Dad, like doing the ironing and washing and making a cup of tea. And like, Mum was like, you know, my dad's never done the ironing in his life. Like, why are you trying to teach him to do the ironing? It's making him really unhappy.
That's funny.
And we could see, like, it wasn't recovering in this place. It was like the wrong environment. So we just went the next day, met the director, said, we're taking Dad home. And they were, oh, no, you can't do it. To take anyone out of a hospital in the UK is, like, really hard. No, we're fine. We can look after him. You know, we are sure that he should not be in here. You know, and at that point he was still very disoriented, didn't really know who, where, why, what had happened. So anyway, we just had the confidence and the conviction to remove him from that place and bring him home. And some way we'd sort it out. And we got him home, and it was a spring day. We walked him down the garden, and it like changed him. Yeah. You know, and having things that were familiar to him and his family around him. And, you know, we just went on a journey to help him recover. And, you know, eventually he went back to work and, you know, lived a completely normal life. He's slightly different from a personality, because obviously he killed part of his brain inside himself. But, you know, our focus was more on, you know, that's one of my beliefs in life. It's like, you've got to accept things you cannot change change the things you can and have the wisdom to know the difference. And you see around the world, like, many people want, like, revenge and justice. And I mean, obviously everyone is unique and we don't all have to be the same, but I believe to put the energy on the stuff you can change in the future. And I just don't hold grudges. There's no point.
Yeah, you told me that was your biggest strength, right?
Yeah, you've just got to move on. Actually, I, like, blank it out, like, what actually happened. That's irrelevant, actually, because that's not going to change. That happened.
Yeah.
What's going to change is focusing on the things we can change. Yeah.
I feel like that's easy for you, but hard for others, I feel like growing up, you've, like that situation there where you thought the positives, like the family's in on it, you're in on it, everyone's thinking positive, not negative. This has happened. I think it's so easy for some people, but so hard for others. Yeah. Unfortunately, that's just the way it is. I mean, obviously, family, for those that know you, is obviously very important because it's like a family-run business, if you will. You've got your kids working for you. You've got families in your business working for you. You just told me that story about your dad. Obviously, family's so important to you, right? You've obviously got 7 kids, which is mental. It's crazy. Like, what are you doing to, let these grow? Like, what values are you trying to instill in your children? Because there must be a lot of conversations that you have with these, and obviously going to have a big impact on them. So, as a mother, what are you telling your children, and what are you trying to instill in them, apart from obviously hard work and trying to think positive all the time? And we don't have any anger or arguing in our house. We have a lot of debate. Okay. Especially with the older kids. What's the difference?
They're like, very controversial, especially, one of my eldest, Seb, like, loves to discuss politics. But we have positive discussion. We disagree about a lot, but we never let it fester or have even the point of view. We never let it, become difficult or an argument or shouting. So, we really believe it. Paola and I, we believe in that is really important for the kids to grow up in a very positive environment. We teach them that it's fine to make mistakes, and we push them a lot in sport. We really believe sport is important for many reasons, not only from a health point of view, but we just think, generally when you look at athletes and, like, just having watched the Olympic Games, like, they're so inspiring, the hard work, the ethics that go into, being top in sport. And, like, even if you never become top of the game, the lessons you learn, from a personal discipline, vision you have, the teamwork, commitment, like, it's just, on a different level. So, we really believe in sport because, actually, I'd love to get my kids to the Olympics somehow. Yeah.
I think you learn a lot from sports, right? I think, like, people skills. Yeah.
Everything. How to look after yourself, how to be independent, good habits, like discipline around, how to do the important things, like not waste time. Like, usually athletes are not those that are just hanging around wasting time. No. They're thinking about the holistic self, generally more positive. They understand the value of connections and people and inputs. They have kind of role models that they, managing vision and purpose and people they aspire to be like. I think just sport is generally good overall, apart from the fact that, it sets the body up physically to be more able for the rest of your life. Yeah. There's so much evidence these days around how doing sport and different sports make you live longer, more, cognitive, ability for longer, less Alzheimer's, all of these things. And, I can see it with my own eyes, even from my own grandparents to parents. My family have always been, physically fit, but not necessarily as fit as they could be, considering all the dimensions of fitness, which is mobility, nutrition, So I see, even like from my grandma, who lived to 98, who was, traveling till she was 94 around the world. Oh. My mum, when she was 78, which is what my mum is now, she wasn't as physically fit as my mum is, and my mum, she's focused more on nutrition because now there's better education around that. She's focused more on mobility because there's better education around that. So like each generation of my family, have kind of improved, pushed the thinking. It's all about education really, and inspiration, and want to do the same with the kids. So we're very. We make sure the kids understand sport's really important.
Health.
Health.
Yep.
We push them to do the best they can. If you're going to do something, do it to the best of your ability. And if you don't like it, don't do it. So, we have a lot of discussions with the kids together to help them choose the sports they want to do. And, some sports are just for hobbies, and some sports are for competing. And, even at the age of 6, 7, 8, they're very aware of that. So William will tell you, I do swimming for, competition, and I do sailing for hobby. So we try and get them to think about all of those things when they're little, and we get them to also focus on their studies, and they might not all be top of the class. It's not about being top of the class, it's just doing the best you can with what you choose to do.
When I was younger, it was always, I never knew what I wanted to do, and I was always in and out of different things. I want to do this, I want to be this. It always changed, and I'd be like, I'd try and give my best to what I've got, but then
and that's fine.
I'd always thought, so how do you deal with the kid? You're just super relaxed about that. No matter what your kids want to do at the time, and they don't enjoy it, just move on.
Yeah.
You're super relaxed about it. Yeah. Chilled.
Yeah, as long as they give their best to what they're doing, and they, there's a reason. It's not like, just don't like it's too hard, I'm bored. Like that. Don't. But I think when I was a child, I also had lots of different ideas about what I want. When I was 10, I wanted to be Prime Minister of the UK. I wanted to be Maggie Thatcher. Then I wanted to be a spy. I wanted to work for MI5.
Wow.
Then
Must have been watching too many movies.
Yeah, exactly. Or reading too many books. Then I wanted to be in the military. Then I wanted to work in finance in London. So I've often had lots of different dreams and focuses, ambitions.
Do you feel like you just drop into, you did literally just drop into what was sort of made for you? Like, you didn't have this idea of doing what you do now. It just sort of fell on your lap, but to a certain point it sort of did. Literally, you went there and there was this Kids Inc. company that you didn't know of, and it literally did. But then most people would be like, don't worry about it. But you looked at it as an opportunity, which is a lot different to what most people would do.
Yeah, because also I saw a way to make it play to my strengths. So
how important is that for you? Because we had this conversation as well about people, working towards the strengths, not worrying about the weaknesses so much.
So I really believe that, we should focus on understanding and finding our strengths, and not so much about our development areas and weaknesses. And that's something that, when I worked in like large corporate multinationals, every year, there was the personal development review, and every year you'd set objectives, and then you would have a review every quarter with your manager, and usually the focus would be what's going wrong and what can you improve at, and that was always the angle of the conversation. Same at school, it's always, and I think still many schools have this, it's like, when we go to the parents' days of all of our children, it's what can they improve on? What are they not good at? What do they need to work harder at?
Yeah, it's negative, right?
Yes. Actually, I think that it should be the reverse. The first focus, the 80%, should be on understanding what are our unique strengths.
Agreed.
What gives us what I call like the flow, which is the point where passion and skills and strengths like meet, to be able to make you happy. Actually, in the end, that's what life's all about. It's about being happy.
Sure.
finding each of our own ways there. Yeah. So once, I just tell a small story. So there was a guy at Mars, Grant Reed, he was the CEO at the time. He told me a story about an analogy of how to think about strengths and weaknesses that I tell everyone in my company. And in fact, I think if you go around my company and see on the whiteboard, some people even draw the sailing boat. And obviously, sailing's a big passion of mine, but it's not linked.
Yeah. You can tell us an example, then we'll go on to your sailing.
Okay,
it's perfect.
So, if you should think of yourself or imagine yourself as a sailing boat. Okay, so
I'm just going to close my eyes and sit here.
Okay, so a sailing boat actually works through the sails, harnessing the power of the wind. And if you don't have sails, and if you don't put the wind in the sails in the right way, which actually requires constant tweaking and adjustment, the boat can't go forward. And actually, there's no point of a boat if it can't go forward, actually. So a sailboat needs to have sails and it needs to harness the wind. On the other hand, most big boats, we can say, big sailboats have an anchor. Because also, usually in a sailboat, you need to stop. You moor up and you drop the anchor. And an anchor stops the boat going forward. So actually, even in strong winds, if you don't want to drop the anchor, sometimes you drag the anchor to slow the boat and to manage the situation of the wind, whatever that might be. And the anchor is like, the analogy to the weakness. It's holding your boat back to your development areas. Okay, so, of course, like the more the anchor's dropped, and when it's on the seabed, the harder it is for the boat to go forward at all, even if you've got the sails up. And the more you bring the anchor up, the less drag it creates, basically. So you've got to see the sails as the strengths of the boat and the anchor as the weaknesses. There's no point in focusing on the weaknesses because actually the weaknesses are never going to make the boat go. The anchor, no matter what you do to the anchor, bring it up, drop it down, bring it halfway, never going to make the boat go forward. Okay, so there's absolutely no point to spend 80% of the focus on the anchor and how to reduce the drag. The only thing that's going to make the boat go forward is working with the sails and the wind, and improving the aerodynamics, the flow, tweaking the sails, the luff, all the elements of the sail that you could play with to make the boat go forward. So actually, to make the boat work, you need to spend 80-90% of your time understanding the strengths, understanding how to play those strengths, and understanding how those strengths can make you go forward as a person. And you need to be aware of the anchor. I mean, if you're sailing a boat and you don't understand that you've even got an anchor, that's going to be a problem. So you should be aware of your strength, your weaknesses, your development areas, and understand when they're causing you too much drag. Just be aware of them. Maybe you need to lift them up a little, or maybe they don't matter, you can drop them down, so it's about self-awareness. So you apply this to people and business, and even not even business, just life. It's about really, my advice is to everyone, like, don't worry about what you're not good at. Actually spend the time finding what are your real strengths. And then try and work out ways to put more wind into them.
Love it.
And that's what we also try and do with the kids. That's what I try and tell people at work. And quite often we find really great people, at work. Actually, the biggest challenge you have is like hiring great people. And when you find someone great, it's about bringing them into the company. And maybe at the beginning, you don't have a natural role for them.
I was going to question on this because I saw a podcast that you did.
Yeah. So, just like if you find great talent, you can always find a way to
integrate them and give them a role.
Integrate them into the business. And so we often have people join in one role and then we move them to another role because we learn what their strengths are.
You've identified that.
And it goes back to my point, like everyone comes, joins to do a good job. And if they're not doing a good job, probably we've not found them an opportunity for them to play to their strengths.
Yeah, which is totally different to what other companies would do. Other companies would have a role. You've got to get that person on that's got the experience in that role, but you've got in, what you believe is a good person. They've got strong values to what you believe in as well, similar to you. And then you've created a role for them, which I think's a different way of doing it, but obviously a successful way, because you've obviously got people in. And thinking of the bolts, you've got people with different strengths who are doing different things, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Why give one person a job role when they're trying to do things that they're not really good at? It just doesn't make sense, does it? So
yeah,
it's a great way of
well, so
bringing
far
people
it's working.
on. It does, yeah, it's working tremendously, and like I said, I've been in there and such a good vibe around the place. But onto the sailing, because you have not long ago just broke some sort of record with regards to sailing. So if you did hear Charlotte speaking about a sailboat, then she obviously knows a lot about a sailboat, a lot more than I do. So let's just tell people what world record it was that you broke, and then I want you to tell me what you did differently with the boat and your team to the other teams for you to win the race.
So it was not. I won the World Championship for a certain type of class of boat, and the first was the first female helm. So helm is the driver.
So that was the record, being the first female.
So it's first female to ever win World Championship. Usually, they have overall World Championship title, and then they have the first female. So actually I won both this year. We were a team with 2 boys, so the rule is that to be classed as a female team, you have to have a female driver and helm, and then you have to have 50% of the crew as female. So we had 2 girls and 2 boys. Yeah. And actually, I think kind of that's a wonderful thing, that it's not just about being all female. It's about sailing is amazing sport like that, actually, that, it's about to bring the strengths of boys and girls together, to make a team to compete. It doesn't have to be about all girls.
That's kind of a little bit different to most sports, right? Because most sports are usually typically men and girls. Yeah, I like that.
So I like that as well. Yeah. And so SB20 is a type of boat that's 20 foot. It's keel boat with 3 sails, actually. It has the main and the jib and a big spinnaker, that big red kite that you often, or any coloured kite, but ours was red. So this is a boat that is called a one design boat. So the boat is strictly controlled in terms of the weight of the boat, the weight of the keel, the surface area of the sails. The sails have to be made by a company called Hyde. The rigging has to be certain thickness, type, length, dimensions. The fixed and the running rigging, actually, so that's the ropes and the the metal sort of parts that hold the mast up. The crew even has to be, so as a team, we couldn't be more than 270 kilos. And the boat keel has to be a certain weight within the overall weight of the boat. So the idea is that there's no competitive advantage from the equipment itself.
Right, so every team's got more or less the same boat. Yeah. That's what you're trying to say. Yeah. So it's not like the F1 where you've got better engineers and you can do something to the car. Every team has the same boat to make it fit. Yeah. So it's all going to come down to how you sail on the day. That's it.
Absolutely.
Love that.
There are some things actually that you can do to improve the equipment, because actually there's 4 dimensions that we said, or pillars when we set it. So maybe just go back a step. So just this boat is sailed here in Dubai. There's around 30 boats. We sail at Dubai Offshore Sailing Club. There's around 700 boats around the world. And the World Championship is held every year somewhere around the world. This year, it was this year, January this year, it was decided to host it in Dubai. So it's the first time it's ever been hosted. Last year it was in the Netherlands, the year before in Ireland, next year in Singapore. So my friend and I, Pippa, we decided, we were going to give a shot to try and win this competition. We sat down the end of last year and, figured out what we needed to do to win that. So, aim high. In the end, we went to do the best we possibly could. Like you expect from your employees. But we had a vision to win, and we put our program together to decide what do we need to do to give ourselves the best chance to win. Okay, so the first thing was putting the team together, working out. So, for example, when it comes to kind of the equipment and the weights and the wand design, what we knew is this boat sails the best if the crew is 270 kilos. Clearly to get 4 people on weight who all sail together is really hard to do. And in fact, many people, struggle to do that. So they sail with 3 people, who could maybe 260 kilos or 240 kilos even, because then they can't find, or they put a small child in as a ballast, or they sail, with 3 people mainly, 3 big guys. Actually, it's always better to have more hands on a boat. More hands, more eyes, because, often if the wind is high or, even if the wind is low, not having to move around so much, having things to be able to tweak without disturbing the boat, or having the ability to, pull ropes under high pressure in high wind, more hands can help. The same as, and that's more than just weight, right? Because 3 guys weighing 270 kilos versus 4 people weighing 270 kilos, you have 2 extra hands, but also 2 extra eyes. So we had these 2 extra eyes looking outside of the boat, looking at the long-term wind, the overall tactics of the other sailors, and helping us to give longer-term information to make better short-term decisions. So we decided that the first thing when we're deciding the team was not to sail underweight or 3 people, which we couldn't do anyway because I also was 67 kilos. We couldn't sail with 3 people actually, because even if I find 2 big guys difficult to, and then wouldn't be a female team. And
I see.
So we said, okay, we need to be 270 kilos, and actually our 2 guys that we chose, we added up to I think we were 24, 26 kilos. Can't remember now exactly. Overweight.
Oh, okay.
So in December when we decided to do this, or it's November, okay, the first thing is the commitment was that we had to agree who was losing what weight to make 270 kilos.
Surprised you didn't give me a call.
So anyway, we did it through complete focus, obsession, and on the morning we weighed in our underwear, we were 269 kilos.
Wow. So I know, was you all losing weight for that, or was just 2 people?
No, we all lost weight. We all lost weight within the context of the starting weight. Yeah. And what was achievable. But, we all lost weight. We, checked in regularly, how to do that, supporting each other.
Lovely.
But, that's the first example of how we had made a decision to get the best out of one of the rules that was defining so we sailed exactly at 270 kilos. The second thing is that, there's always like a margin of tolerance in anything in life.
Okay.
So, sails are made by the same sail maker, but, maybe there's 1, 2, 3 mil, there's a plus or minus. Maybe having a leech or a luff, that's slightly smaller or bigger, or giving slightly more curve in the sail, can create a small advantage in the way the wind gives the boat speed and power. So we set off to measure everything in the boat and find all the margins of tolerance within the rules that we could just push 1 or 2 mil. So just to maybe help visualize or give that more sense to people who don't sail, it's like being a long jumper in the Olympics. You train, you've got the line that your toe can't go over to make a jump or no jump. What the long jump, they're not trying to break the rule by going over the line, but they're training the rhythm to get the exact distance, not to lose 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mil in a jump. So it's that's what athletes, performance athletes are doing. They're trying to find the small marginal gains within the rules of the game. So we set out on a journey to do that in everything, around the boat. So when you're sailing, like we just like going back to the pillars where we worked on the equipment. So the equipment is one design, but we made sure we did everything we can to optimize that. The second is, maneuvers. So when you're tacking or jibing or turning or pulling the sails, it's like minimizing mistakes. Sailing's all about like who can make the least mistakes. You win if you make less mistakes than the others. So we just practiced the maneuvers hundreds of times. It's boring, but we went out day in, day out doing 100 mark roundings, 100 tacks, 100 jibes in order to be able to execute them perfectly when it came to the competition. The next pillar is boat speed. So it's about trying different things continuously to understand the right balance between all of the factors to be able to make the boat go marginally faster than all the other boats. And then the final thing is tactics, having better tactics. So we spent a lot of time. Tactics also, is considering not only what everyone else is doing, but also what to do in the context of the tide, the wind, and we actually over 3 months decided to learn everything about the tide and the currents in that water out there in Dubai. So we went out measured at different times of day, and so we were able to predict how the tide would be on the race course before the race.
Wow.
And we would still go out on the race course and check it. So we'd have a little tide device in the boat which you can use, anyone can use. But we were not going out into the race course, checking the tide and decide. We were just like actually reassuring us. So we said, okay, the tide's going to be like this.
Yeah.
It's going to be, left to right around five, whatever. So and we would go out and just verify our information. So it wouldn't distract us from our race preparation, pre-race, because actually we didn't have to think about that. We'd already thought about what to do. So there was many things that we had a very clear plan. We focused on what we're going to do within that plan. We were very repetitive with how we worked against that plan. We had lots of discipline as a team. We had a big vision. Yeah. So lots of things that you can apply. And actually when we won, I did a presentation to the company, to all the employees, what lessons could we take from that whole experience and apply back to the company.
I love that. So who would do that usually as a CEO or an owner of a company, right? There's not many people that would do that and try and relate that information. Because what I took away from that as well, and I'm thinking about it as you're telling me the story, is it's similar with people's fitness and health. It's like you can go and train or you can go and sail, go and enjoy yourself, go and sail. But if you focus on the little things, like such as in fitness, recovery, your sleep, stress, stuff like this that play a big impact on how your fitness is or how you see yourself longevity-wise, being healthy and fit. You need to also look at these little things that you can make a difference with, such as what I've just mentioned. And it's the same as you doing the sailboat, It's like there's little things that you need to focus on to be able to be good or win a competition. It's the same with a fitness competition, or it's the same with me personally. If I want to be fit and healthy for as long as possible, then it's not just going to sail a boat or training. It's all the other things that come with it, So that's what I was taking away from it. And people
we even took nutrition really seriously, because actually sailing's a long game. It's 5 days of probably 4 to 5 hours every day on the water. So it's not about winning one race. And actually we never won any of the races. We were second in many, third, fifth, eighth. But it's about consistency and being able to perform consistently. You see a lot of amazing sailors, maybe a little bit older with more experience, and they come and they sail, they do amazing the first day, or the first race every day, but they can't keep that. And so we worked a lot on nutrition on the boat, energy, what gives us the best energy and focus between races, hydration, really key here in Dubai, but generally on a boat. You've got to be, it's like a game of chess with some physical fitness thrown in as well. Sure. So, absolutely.
We'll wrap it up real quick.
Have I been talking too much?
No, it's all right. It's so good. I love the conversation. Just a couple of things that we'll finish off with. And I know you don't really think about it much, but future-wise, like, what's the future for Charlotte, for Kids Inc., for the kids, for, how do you see life going?
Yeah.
Keep it brief.
I knew you were going to ask me that question.
Yeah.
I don't really have a clear answer.
Yeah, that's fine.
I just, happiness is important to me, and, not just my happiness, but the happiness of my family. So focusing on that, and helping my kids to have as many different experiences as possible. That's in the future. I was inspired after the Olympics, like thinking, what the hell can I train for that could get me to the Olympics? Because you see so many stories of people who started cycling. There's that American girl, she's a lot younger than me, but she just started cycling 4 years ago, qualified for the team, won the gold medal. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, also in the 40k road cycling, there's I think the athlete, she was second or third, was 47 years old. Wow. Yeah. So for sure, like somewhere in my mind, I'm thinking, what can I do to get into the Olympics? I'm thinking maybe cycling could be a good idea, actually. So just that might change in 2 months, 3 months, but I want to continue to have challenges. I want to be happy. I like to explore and do new things. I like my company to be happy. I like my employees. I like to see them growing.
I mean, I think I'm pretty much like you. There's no like set sort of future vision. It's just like, I love what you say. It's like doing the best with what you've got, like being in now and making the right decisions, being a good person, and if you do that, I think you're just going to...
The good things come.
Yeah, the good things come and everything just falls in to fruition, right? I feel like that's very important. Last quick question, fire question. Describe yourself in 3 words.
I'm a bit like full on.
So full on, that would be 1.
Yeah. I'm a bit crazy, changing my mind a lot. I change my mind a lot.
2.
And I am happy. Yeah.
You are. I love that about you. There's certain energy when I get the energy when I'm with you. It's great. It's it's very refreshing. How would your employees describe you in 3 words, do you reckon? Yeah,
they would probably say the first 2, full on and crazy.
Yeah. Okay, what about Paolo then?
Paolo,
How would Paolo describe
he would say that
I am good stuff, wouldn't it?
Sailing obsessed.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he would say, family.
Yeah.
Family. Actually, maybe I could help you with the question from a different angle. What would my kids say about me?
Yeah, it's cool.
And I'll tell you exactly what they said about me. So Florrie was looking at she's my middle one, and she was looking at my Instagram the other day. And I have like 26 people follow me, closed, and I just post like what's really important to me, like more as a visual diary, actually. And Paolo said, "What do you think is important to Mummy?" And she said, "Sailing, family, work." And I think that's with sailing sport, because probably it's just sailing at the moment. But she would.
I feel like if you'd ask me, that's the 3 things I'd say as well, right?
Yeah.
It's like they're the 3 main pillars of your life right now. You've got work, which is obviously it's your company, you're an entrepreneur. Obviously, it's a big part of your life which you enjoy doing, and I can see that when I go into the office and stuff. Family, obviously, with the chat that we've had, and I guess people that are watching and listening would get that vibe from you. Obviously, you've got 7 kids, so family is big. And what was the other one?
Sports.
And sport, obviously. I mean, I first met you. You came to Inify all them years ago, 8-9 years ago, whatever it was. You was in great shape. You always have been. You've always been training. So, I mean, it's pretty standard, right there. The 3 things. Love that. Well, thanks for the chat. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you. I've enjoyed it.
It's flown by.
It went really fast. How long was that?
Just over an hour.
Okay.
Thanks for listening, guys. A big thank you to our main podcast sponsor, Practical, for supplying guests with some tasty snacks, and you guys for watching on our YouTube channel. Please subscribe and let us know what you think by dropping a message in the comment section below.